The morning on Xylara was calm, with the twin suns rising slowly over the horizon. The desert was painted in warm shades of gold and orange. Roran and Miri stood outside the ranch, reviewing the evidence they had collected over the past days. Crystal samples, images of damaged land, tracks of machinery, and notes on the tunnels. All of it was carefully organized. Today they would present their findings to the alien sheriff, a task that required courage, preparation, and careful planning. Miri adjusted her satchel, making sure the evidence was secure. "Roran, we must be careful," she said. "The sheriff does not know us. He may doubt a human's intentions. We cannot afford mistakes," Roran nodded. "I understand. But we have truth on our side. We have evidence. We have courage. That is more important than appearances." Together they mounted Roran's small rover, a sturdy vehicle adapted for the desert. Its wheels crunched over the sand as they drove toward the distant settlement, where the sheriff's office stood. The settlement was built near a rocky plateau, with metallic buildings rising among the rocks. Alien figures moved through the streets, their armor reflecting sunlight. Humans were rare here, and Roran felt the weight of being an outsider. As they approached the sheriff's hall, Miri's wings twitched nervously. "Remember, Roran, speak clearly, show the evidence, and do not argue unnecessarily. Let the facts speak for themselves." Roran nodded again, feeling a mixture of nervousness and determination. The building was imposing with tall pillars and wide doors made of polished metal. At the entrance, an alien deputy examined them carefully, scanning their identities. When he recognized Miri, he allowed them inside, though his expression remained skeptical. Inside, the alien sheriff waited. He was tall and imposing, his armored uniform shining under the hall's lights. His face was stern, and his eyes, visible through the mask, studied the visitors with curiosity and caution. "State your purpose," the sheriff said, his voice deep and authoritative. Miri stepped forward. "Sheriff, my name is Miri. This is Roran, a human who lives on the northern plains. We have discovered illegal mining operations damaging the desert and harming the creatures of Xylara. We have evidence and documentation to support this claim." The sheriff raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised to see a human involved. "A human? Why should I trust your involvement? You could have personal motives." Roran stepped forward, his voice calm and steady. "Sheriff, I live on Xylara. I care for the land, the creatures, and the community. My interest is not personal gain. I am here to help protect what cannot defend itself. The evidence we bring shows the truth." Miri opened her satchel and carefully displayed the crystal samples, images, and notes. She explained the damage caused by the mining equipment, the collapsed tunnels, and the frightened desert creatures. Roran added details about the paths they had discovered, the hidden machinery, and the tracks of patrols. The sheriff examined the evidence carefully, touching the crystals and scanning the images. His eyes flicked between Miri and Roran, assessing their honesty, determination, and credibility. He asked questions about the locations, the methods used to gather evidence, and the risks they had taken. Both Miri and Roran answered clearly without hesitation. "You have risked your lives to bring this information," the sheriff said finally. "It is unusual for someone so small and inexperienced, a human and a maid, to uncover something this significant." Roran smiled quietly. "We did what was necessary. We could not ignore the harm being done. Humans act on courage and compassion. Sometimes we see what others overlook." The sheriff nodded thoughtfully. "Your courage is commendable. But you must understand, the leaders of the mining company are powerful. They will resist any intervention. We must act carefully to avoid escalation." Miri's wings fluttered slightly. "We understand, Sheriff. But the land, the creatures, and the ecosystem cannot wait. Action must be taken soon." The sheriff studied them for a long moment. Then he spoke. "I will authorize an investigation based on your evidence. You will accompany my deputies to guide us through the tunnels and identify the areas of concern. This will be risky, but your knowledge is essential." Roran and Miri exchanged a glance. Relief and determination filled them. Their plan was working. Their courage, preparation, and trust in each other had opened the door to action. Over the next few hours, the sheriff's deputies prepared for the investigation. Roran and Miri led the group, pointing out safe paths, warning of weak tunnels, and highlighting areas where the land had been damaged. The desert creatures observed from a distance, sensing that these humans and aliens were allies. As they approached the first major tunnel, the sheriff's attention sharpened. This is where the largest machinery operates, Miri explained. If left unchecked, it will destroy the surrounding dunes and harm every creature nearby. Roran guided the group carefully. He used his knowledge of the desert terrain to avoid unstable areas, showing where to step and where to place equipment. The sheriff watched closely, impressed by the humans' practical ingenuity and courage. Inside the tunnel, the situation was worse than they had imagined. Large machinery rumbled, conveyor systems carried crystals, and energy devices lit the passage with a harsh glow. Miri pointed out collapsed sections and areas where young creatures had been trapped. Roran assisted her in documenting every detail, capturing images and measurements to support the investigation. Suddenly, one of the deputies called out, "Movement near the rear tunnels. Someone is approaching." Miri's wings twitched and Roran stepped protectively beside her. A group of mining workers appeared, surprised to see the sheriff's party. They tried to block the path, but the sheriff raised his hand. "We are conducting an official investigation," he announced. "Leave this area immediately or face consequences." The miners hesitated, clearly unprepared for direct confrontation. Miri stepped forward, her small form standing firm. "You are harming the land and the creatures of Xylara. Stop now, or the evidence will show your actions to all authorities." Roran added, "This is not about humans or aliens. It is about protecting what cannot speak for itself. Your actions are wrong, and we will make sure they are stopped." The miners looked at the combined courage of the sheriff, the deputies, Miri, and the human rancher. Slowly they stepped aside, leaving the tunnel and the surrounding dunes. The sheriff motioned for the deputies to secure the area, ensuring no further damage would occur. Outside, the sheriff turned to Roran and Miri. "You have done something remarkable. Many would have ignored the signs or been too afraid to act. You, however, showed courage, intelligence, and determination. Humans have a unique ability to see possibilities and act boldly. It is impressive." Miri looked at Roran, smiling faintly. "You were right. Humans can be extraordinary in ways others cannot imagine." Roran felt a warm sense of pride. He had always valued quiet courage, the kind that acted when it mattered most. Here his actions had helped protect the desert, its creatures, and the balance of life on Xylara. The sheriff continued, "We will continue the investigation, and the mining company will face consequences. But your work has made this possible. You both have shown that even small individuals, when acting with purpose and courage, can make a galaxy-wide difference." Roran and Miri exchanged a glance, their bond strengthened by shared trials and trust. They knew the journey was not over. There were more tunnels to investigate, more dangers to face, and more creatures to protect. But for now they had achieved a major victory, proving that courage, intelligence, and teamwork could triumph over greed and destruction. As the sun set over the desert, Roran and Miri returned to the ranch, exhausted but determined. They had faced authority, danger, and the unknown, yet their trust in each other had not wavered. The land of Xylara was safer, the creatures were unharmed, and a new respect had been earned from the sheriff. That night, they sat outside the ranch, watching the stars. Roran spoke softly. "We did good today, Miri, but there is more work ahead. We must continue to protect this land and ensure the mining company cannot harm it again." Miri nodded. "Yes, Roran, and together we can face whatever comes. The desert has challenges, but it also has allies. Humans, aliens, and creatures, all of us together can make a difference." The twin moons of Xylara rose high, casting silver light over the dunes. In that quiet, glowing night, Roran and Miri felt a deep connection, to each other, to the land, and to the courage that comes from standing up for what is right. They knew the journey ahead would test them further, but they were ready. Together, they had proven that even a quiet human and a small alien maid could challenge injustice, protect life, and inspire respect from the most powerful figures on the planet. Their courage had begun to shine, and there was no turning back. The morning sun rose over Xylara, casting a golden glow across the endless dunes. Roran awoke early, as he always did, but today his mind was focused on more than the ranch. Miri had revealed pieces of a secret that stretched beyond their quiet life. The tunnels, the mining operation, the harm to the land, these were problems that needed action. He had decided he would help her, but he did not yet know the full dangers ahead. Miri, though still limping slightly, moved with purpose. She prepared a small pack with supplies for their trek into the northern dunes. Roran watched her carefully. She had always been efficient, but now her movements carried determination and urgency. The limp was still there, a reminder that she had been hurt, but she ignored it, focused on the mission. Roran approached her. "I will go with you today," he said. "We need to be careful, but together we can do more." Miri looked at him, hesitation in her golden eyes. She had learned to work alone, trusting few, but seeing Roran's calm confidence, she nodded. "All right, but remember, we must follow my lead. The tunnels are dangerous. One wrong step could cause collapse or worse, alert the wrong people." They left the ranch quietly, moving through the familiar dunes, but heading farther than Roran had ever gone before. The desert seemed different today, alive with secrets and possibilities. The sand shifted beneath their feet, and distant rocks created long shadows. Roran marveled at Miri's knowledge of the terrain. She knew which paths were safe, which areas could hide danger, and even where the wind would carry sound. After a few hours of careful walking, they reached the first tunnel site. It was carved into a tall ridge of rock, barely visible from a distance. The entrance was rough and uneven, with signs of machinery tracks nearby. Miri crouched to inspect the ground. "They have been here recently," she said. "Look at the marks. These machines are heavy, and they leave traces even on shifting sand." Roran studied the tracks. He nodded. "I can see that. It is clear they are working fast. But we can follow these marks and learn more." Miri carefully led him along a hidden path, avoiding the main tracks. She showed him small signs, crushed plants, broken rocks, and tiny footprints of creatures fleeing the area. "All this shows they do not care about the land," she explained. "They take what they want and leave destruction behind." Roran's jaw tightened. Humans had always learned to protect what they loved, and now he understood that even on a distant planet the same principle applied. Protecting the land was worth courage, effort, and sometimes risk. Suddenly they heard a low rumble. Roran froze. Miri's wings twitched and she crouched low. "A patrol," she whispered. "They are coming this way. We must hide." Roran followed her behind a rock formation, keeping silent. From their hiding spot they saw two armored deputies pass near the tunnel entrance. They spoke in a language Roran did not fully understand, but their gestures were clear. They were checking the site, ensuring no one interfered. Miri held her breath. Roran admired her bravery. She was small, wounded, yet fearless. Once the patrol passed, Miri exhaled slowly. "We cannot stay here long. They will return. We need to gather evidence and leave." Roran nodded. "Show me what to do." Together they explored the area around the tunnel. Miri pointed out energy readings from hidden machinery and unusual rock formations caused by mining. Roran noted every detail, recording observations with a small device he carried. They worked quickly, knowing that the patrol could return at any moment. As they prepared to leave, Miri suddenly winced and grabbed her leg. Roran rushed to her side. "You are pushing too hard," he said, concerned. "We can take a short break." Miri shook her head. "No, Roran, we are close. I can manage." Roran helped her sit on a nearby rock. He carefully examined her leg. The limp was more than a small injury. It seemed she had strained a joint or muscle, yet her spirit remained unbroken. He admired her strength. Many would have stopped, but she pressed on, driven by the need to protect the land. After a few minutes, they continued. Miri led him to a hidden section of the tunnels where machines were still operating. The miners had not yet noticed them. From their vantage point, they could see conveyor systems moving strange crystals and other resources from deep inside the rocks. "These are dangerous machines," Miri said quietly. "They are not just mining, they are taking life from the land." Roran studied the machines. "We need proof. Evidence the deputies can use." Miri nodded and carefully took small crystal samples, recording the damage. Roran captured images and measurements. Each detail was crucial. If they could present this information to the sheriff, they could stop the operation. Suddenly, a loud sound echoed through the tunnels. Roran and Miri froze. A heavy crate had fallen, causing a vibration in the sand. The machine slowed and a deputy's voice called out. Miri's eyes widened. "We must move now." Roran took her hand. "I will help you." They retraced their path, avoiding the main tracks. Miri led the way, Roran supporting her whenever she faltered. The desert seemed endless, but they moved quickly, knowing the patrol might return. Their bond grew stronger with every step. Trust, courage, and determination connected them. When they finally reached a safe spot, Miri collapsed gently onto the sand. Roran knelt beside her. You pushed too hard, he said, more softly this time. Miri smiled faintly. Sometimes the land needs more courage than one can imagine. I cannot ignore it. Roran looked at her, admiration shining in his eyes. I understand now. You are brave not because you are strong but because you care. Miri's wings fluttered slightly. And you, Roran, are brave too. You risk following me into danger not knowing what we might face. You act with a heart humans are known for. It is remarkable. Roran felt pride and humility together. Humans had always faced challenges and relied on courage, ingenuity, and compassion. Here, on a distant planet, he realized that these qualities were just as important, even against alien threats and unknown dangers. The next few days, they worked in coordination. Roran used his knowledge of the dunes to create hidden paths, leaving markers only he and Miri could recognize. They avoided patrols, mapped the tunnels, and documented the damage. The desert creatures observed quietly, sensing that these humans and aliens were allies, not threats. One afternoon, they found a group of young alien creatures trapped near another tunnel. The ground had been disturbed and the animals were frightened. Miri moved quickly, directing them toward safety. Roran helped, using his strength to lift obstacles and create a safe path. Together, they rescued the creatures. Miri's limp slowed her slightly, but her resolve never wavered. Afterward, they rested under the shade of a rock formation. The suns were hot overhead, but a gentle wind cooled them. Miri spoke quietly. Roran, I never expected a human to help me like this. I thought I would face this alone. But now, with you, I feel stronger. Roran smiled. You do not need to be alone. Courage is multiplied when people work together. Humans, aliens, it does not matter. We can achieve more when we trust each other. Miri's eyes shone. She realized that humans were unpredictable in a good way. They could think creatively, act boldly, and make choices that even careful aliens might not consider. In that moment, Roran's presence was a reminder of the strength that comes from heart, determination, and intelligence. As the sun set, they returned to the ranch. Exhausted but determined, they knew the journey ahead would be difficult. The mining operation was larger than they imagined. Patrols, machinery, and hidden tunnels would not stop them. But they also knew they had a unique advantage: courage, intelligence, and trust. That night, under the twin moons, Roran and Miri discussed the next steps. We must prepare for the sheriff, Miri said. The deputies will act only if the sheriff sees proof. We need to make our case strong, Roran nodded. Then we will gather everything. Images, samples, notes. We will be ready. Miri smiled faintly. It is good to have you as an ally, Roran. I never imagined humans could be this capable. Roran chuckled softly. And I never imagined an alien maid could be so fearless. Together we make a strong team. As they watched the stars reflect on the desert sand, both realized that their journey was just beginning. The tunnels held more secrets, the land faced more dangers, and the mining operation was only part of a larger threat. Yet neither hesitated. They had each other, courage, and a plan. The quiet human rancher and the brave alien maid were ready to face whatever lay ahead. The desert was alive, full of secrets and challenges, but also full of hope. And with their determination, even the smallest humans and aliens could make a difference. The desert of Xylara stretched endlessly under the twin suns, golden and harsh, yet alive with hidden life. Roran and Miri prepared for the final step of their mission. They had gathered evidence, won the sheriff's trust, and now it was time to stop the illegal mining operation completely. The stakes were high, and the challenge was greater than anything they had faced so far. Roran checked the supplies carefully. Water, food, small tools, communication devices, and tracking equipment were all packed securely. Miri examined the maps of the tunnels, noting weak spots in the machinery and dangerous sections that had collapsed. Both of them knew that their success depended on precision, courage, and cooperation. This is it, Miri said quietly. The main tunnel complex is further ahead. The leaders of the mining operation will be there. We must be careful. If they see us first, they may try to escape or fight. Roran nodded. We will do this carefully. We are not here to fight but to stop harm. Our strength is intelligence, planning, and courage. The two of them mounted Roran's rover and drove toward the northern dunes, following the hidden paths they had marked. The desert was alive with the soft sounds of wind shifting the sand and distant creatures calling to each other. Every step brought them closer to the heart of the operation. where the largest machinery and the most damage awaited. When they reached the complex, the scale of the mining became clear. Massive machines rumbled, carrying crystals and breaking through tunnels. Conveyor belts moved rapidly, and energy devices lit the area with harsh light. Workers and deputies moved among the equipment, unaware of the small team approaching from the dunes. Miri pointed toward a narrow side entrance. This path leads directly inside without being seen. We can place the tracking devices here and document the activity. It will provide proof of all operations. Roran nodded. Lead the way. I will cover you if anything goes wrong. They moved carefully, avoiding machinery and patrols. Miri's small size and agility allowed her to slip through tight spaces. Roran followed, alert and ready. His human intuition helped them navigate the complex, noticing patterns the workers overlooked, predicting patrol routes, and finding weak points in the structure. Once inside, they placed small tracking devices and took images of the machinery and crystal production. The evidence was undeniable. It showed the harm done to the land and the creatures, the dangerous methods, and the scale of the operation. Roran was impressed by Miri's skill. She could sense danger, find hidden paths, and act quickly. He realized that courage was not about size or strength, but about acting when it mattered most. Suddenly, a worker noticed movement. Miri froze, her wings trembling. Roran stepped forward calmly. We are not here to fight. Step aside and no one will be harmed. We are acting to protect this land. The worker hesitated, surprised by the small human and alien team confronting such a large operation. Miri spoke firmly. Stop the machines. Leave this area. Your actions are harming life that cannot defend itself. Roran added. We have evidence and the sheriff is on his way. There is no need to resist. Doing what is right now will prevent further consequences. The worker looked at them, then at the machines, and realized that he could not continue. Slowly, he turned and signaled to the others. The operation began to halt. The conveyor belts stopped, the machinery powered down, and the workers gathered, unsure what to do next. Roran and Miri moved quickly to secure the area. They ensured that no machinery would restart, marking weak points and placing tracking devices to alert the sheriff's deputies if anyone tried to interfere. Miri's limp slowed her slightly, but her determination never faltered. Roran supported her whenever she needed, their teamwork seamless. Soon the sheriff and his deputies arrived. The alien sheriff's eyes widened at the scene, impressed by what the human and alien maid had accomplished. You have done it, he said, his voice filled with respect. The operation is stopped and the evidence is undeniable. Your courage, intelligence, and planning have prevented great harm. Miri and Roran smiled. The journey had been difficult, but their teamwork had succeeded. The sheriff motioned for the deputies to take control of the area and ensure that all operations were permanently halted. Roran and Miri provided guidance, showing weak points, hidden paths, and areas where the land had been most damaged. As the work of securing the complex began, Roran looked at Miri. You were right. The desert needed courage, and together we made a difference. Miri's golden eyes glimmered. You were extraordinary, Roran. Your ability to see solutions and act calmly is remarkable. Humans are unpredictable in the best ways. The sheriff approached them. I have worked with many beings, but rarely have I seen such courage and intelligence combined. You remind us that even a small human and a small alien can change the course of events. You have protected life, land, and balance. It is commendable. Roran felt a quiet pride. He had always believed in acting when it mattered, helping those who could not help themselves. Now on a distant planet, that belief had proven true. Courage, compassion, and intelligence had triumphed. The desert creatures began to return to the safe areas. Small animals cautiously emerged from hidden burrows, observing the humans and aliens who had saved them. The land once threatened now seemed to breathe with relief. Roran and Miri watched quietly, feeling the weight of their actions. That evening, they returned to the ranch. Exhausted but satisfied, they tended to the animals and prepared a simple meal. The twin moons rose, casting silver light over the sand dunes. The quiet beauty of Xylara reminded them of what they had protected. Miri looked at Roran. We faced danger, uncertainty, and powerful forces. Yet we succeeded. I have learned that courage and intelligence are not limited by size or species. Humans have a unique ability to act boldly and wisely. I am glad to have you as an ally. Roran smiled softly. And I have learned that even those who seem small and fragile can be stronger than we imagine. You have shown bravery that inspires me, Miri. Together we have made a difference. The desert was quiet now, peaceful under the moons. Roran felt a deep connection to the land, the creatures, and his companion. He realized that humanity's true strength lay not in technology or weapons but in courage, wisdom, and the willingness to act for the good of others. In the days that followed, the sheriff's office ensured that the mining company could not restart operations. Patrols monitored the tunnels, machinery was removed, and the desert slowly began to recover. Roran and Miri continued to care for the animals and the land, their bond stronger than ever. Visitors from nearby settlements came to learn about the courage of a human and an alien maid. Their story spread across Xylara, inspiring others to act for the protection of life in the land. Roran remained humble, quietly tending his ranch, but he knew that the actions of one human could shine brightly, even across a galaxy. Miri, now walking without a limp, moved gracefully among the animals and plants. She often paused to look at Roran, grateful for his trust, courage, and support. Together they represented the strength that comes from collaboration, compassion, and determination. One evening, as the sun set and painted the dunes in warm colors, Roran spoke quietly. We have shown that even small actions can lead to great change. Courage, intelligence, and kindness, these are what make a difference. Miri nodded. And humans, with their unique perspective and boldness, are a force for good when they choose to act. Today humanity has shone brightly on Xylara. Roran smiled, feeling a quiet pride. They had faced danger, uncertainty, and powerful forces, yet they succeeded. The desert was safe, the creatures were protected, and their courage had been recognized by the highest authority on the planet. The twin moons reflected on the sand, silver and calm. Roran and Miri sat quietly watching the desert. They knew there would be challenges ahead, but they also knew that courage, determination, and intelligence could overcome any obstacle. Together, they had proven that even a quiet human and a small alien maid could make a difference. Humanity had shone brightly, not with weapons or strength, but with heart, wisdom, and courage. Xylara was peaceful now, and the quiet rancher and his brave companion looked at the stars, ready for whatever new adventures awaited. Roran lived on the wide, sun-scorched plains of Xylara, a desert planet far from the bustling colonies near the galactic core. His ranch was small, but it was his world. The land stretched for miles, filled with strange golden sand dunes and rugged rock formations. Among these dunes wandered his livestock, large furry creatures with 6 legs and gentle eyes. Roran loved each one, giving them names and talking to them as he worked. Unlike most humans who settled near cities, Roran preferred solitude. The quiet suited him. He rose early every day to feed the animals, repair broken fences, and inspect his small collection of farming machines. Life was simple and predictable. It was the kind of life that allowed a person to think, reflect, and feel a deep connection with the land. His only companion on the ranch was Miri, an alien maid who had worked for him for several years. She was small, with delicate blue skin and shimmering, translucent wings that caught the morning sun. Her large golden eyes always seemed alert, as if she could see everything at once. She moved with grace, tending to the chores with care. Roran trusted her completely, not only because she was efficient and loyal, but because she had a gentle heart. One morning, as the twin suns of Xylara rose in the sky, Roran noticed something unusual. Miri was walking toward the barn, but her steps were uneven. One leg dragged slightly behind the other, and her wings drooped in a way Roran had never seen before. "Miri," Roran called softly, adjusting his hat against the sunlight. "Are you all right?" Miri paused and forced a smile. "I am fine, Roran. Just a small accident while cleaning the stables." Roran frowned. He knew her well enough to sense when she was hiding something. Miri rarely complained, and she never moved awkwardly unless she was hurt. Her limp looked serious. "You are hiding something," Roran said firmly, though gently. "I can see it. Please tell me what happened." Miri hesitated. Her golden eyes flicked to the ground. Finally she spoke, her voice quiet. I tripped while walking between the pens. It was nothing important. I am okay." Roran studied her. He did not believe her, but he decided to let it go for now. Pressing too hard might make her withdraw completely. Instead, he nodded. All right, but if you are hurt, you must rest. Do not push yourself. Miri inclined her head and continued toward the barn. Roran watched her go, his mind unsettled. Something was wrong, and he felt certain it was more than a simple trip. The day continued with the usual routine. Roran fed. The six-legged creatures checked the water supply and repaired the broken fence near the northern ridge. His hands were calloused and strong from years of work, and he moved with the quiet confidence of a man who had learned to live in harmony with the land. Yet even as he worked, his thoughts kept returning to Miri. By mid-afternoon, the sun hung, high in the sky, burning the sand and making the air shimmer. Roran decided he needed to check on Miri. He walked toward the small dwelling where she rested when not tending the ranch. The door was slightly ajar, and inside, Miri was sitting on a low bench rubbing her leg. You should not have hidden it, Roran said gently as he entered. Let me see. Miri hesitated but allowed him to examine her leg. There was no visible wound, only a strange stiffness in her joints. Roran pressed lightly, testing her balance. She flinched. This is not normal, he said. You are hurt, but I cannot see why. Did something happen while you were outside? Miri shook her head. No, Roran, I promise, it was nothing serious. Roran sighed. All right, but I will watch you. If this worsens, we must find help. She nodded, grateful for his concern but still uneasy. Roran noticed that she avoided eye contact. Something else was going on, something she did not want to share. Later, as evening approached, Roran returned to the fields. The suns were setting, painting the desert sky with shades of orange and purple. The livestock moved quietly, sensing the calm of the evening. Roran paused to admire the view. Solitude was often comforting, but now it felt heavy. He wondered why Miri had been limping. He knew she was stronger than most aliens her size. She had been through harsh storms and had climbed steep cliffs with ease. Something had changed. As darkness fell, Roran prepared a small meal for himself and Miri. The night was silent except for the soft rustle of sand and the occasional call of distant Zilara birds. Miri ate quietly, still avoiding his gaze. Finally, Roran spoke. Miri, I trust you. You do not need to hide anything from me. If there is trouble, we can face it together. Her golden eyes glimmered with emotion. For a moment, she looked as though she might speak, but then she shook her head. It is complicated, Roran. You would not understand. Roran smiled softly. Try me. I understand more than you think. Life here is not easy, and neither is facing danger. But hiding it from me does not make it easier for you. Miri remained silent, but her wings twitched slightly. There was fear in her eyes, but also a spark of hope. She realized that Roran genuinely cared not just for her, but for the land, the animals, and the life they shared. The next morning, Roran decided to follow Miri secretly. If she was hiding something important, he needed to know. He did not confront her directly, fearing it would make her flee or refuse his help. As the suns rose, Roran watched from a distance. Miri moved carefully, her limp still visible, but she walked with determination. She carried a small satchel and headed toward the northern dunes, a place where no human would usually go. Roran followed quietly, keeping behind rocks and ridges. The sand was warm beneath his boots and the wind carried a faint metallic smell. He could see Miri meeting someone among the dunes. She spoke quickly, her hands moving as if describing something urgent. Roran's heart raced. He had never seen her so serious. The people, or creatures she spoke to, were alien deputies, part of the local sheriff's office. They were taller and more armored than Miri, moving with authority. Roran could not hear their words, but he could see Miri's gestures and her cautious glances. It became clear to Roran that Miri was not merely cleaning or tending the ranch. She was involved in something important, something that required secrecy and courage. He felt admiration swell in his chest. Miri, his small, quiet companion, was braver than he had imagined. Roran returned to the ranch that evening with a mix of curiosity and concern. He could not sleep. He thought about Miri's limp, her secret meetings, and the mysterious mission she had undertaken. His quiet life on Xylara was no longer so quiet. He resolved to help her. Whatever danger she faced, Roran would stand by her. He trusted humans to act with courage even when the odds were impossible. He trusted himself to find a way to protect his friend and the land he loved. As the twin moons of Xylara rose, casting pale light over the desert, Roran stood outside the barn looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, danger awaited Miri. Somewhere out there, the world was bigger and more complicated than the simple ranch he had built. Yet he felt ready. Humans could face challenges that others might fear, and he would prove it. In the quiet of the night, Roran made a silent promise. No matter what came, he would protect Miri, the ranch, and the land of Xylara. The next morning, Roran rose before the twin suns fully lit the sky. The desert air was cool and the sand sparkled faintly in the early light. He moved quietly, careful not to wake Miri. His mind replayed the memory of her limping and the secret meeting in the dunes. He knew something important was happening. He also knew that Miri did not need him to scold her. She needed support. After breakfast, he watched her closely. Miri moved with careful precision, but her limp was still there. It was subtle, but it told Roran that she was not only hurt physically but also burdened by worry. She carried her satchel as if it contained precious items. He wondered what she was doing beyond the ranch. Unable to stay idle, Roran decided to follow her again. He did so quietly, using the familiar rocks and ridges to stay hidden. The northern dunes were vast and empty, stretching beyond the horizon. Here the sand shifted with every step, making it difficult for anyone to move silently. But Roran had learned to read the land. He moved carefully, leaving no trace, keeping his eyes on Miri. Miri walked toward a cluster of rocks where shadows lay thick. Roran crouched behind a ridge and watched her meet a group of alien deputies. They were tall, with metallic armor that gleamed in the sunlight. Their faces were covered with smooth masks, leaving only their eyes visible. They looked serious. Miri's posture was tense, but she spoke confidently, gesturing to the sand, the rocks, and the horizon beyond. Roran could not hear the words clearly, but he could see enough. The deputies pointed toward distant cliffs and then at a series of tunnels dug into the desert rocks. Miri shook her head and made careful gestures indicating concern. Then she pointed at the sand near the tunnels and showed the deputies' tracks. Something important was hidden there, something dangerous to the land. Roran's curiosity grew. He crouched lower, careful not to be seen. He realized Miri was gathering information, not for herself, but to protect the creatures and the land around the ranch. She had risked her own safety to learn what was happening in the desert. Roran felt a surge of respect. The quiet alien maid who helped with chores was braver than most people he had ever known. He watched as one of the deputies stepped closer to Miri. The alien was taller than her and radiated authority. Miri flinched slightly and Roran's heart tightened. He could not see what the deputy said, but the body language was clear. They doubted her. They questioned her motives. Roran felt a wave of anger. How could anyone doubt her honesty? She had always acted with integrity. Then Miri did something remarkable. She stepped forward confidently, spreading her hands to show she meant no harm. She pointed toward the dunes again and made careful signs, as if showing evidence of damage caused by someone else. The deputies leaned in, and one of them seemed to understand. They nodded slowly, taking notes. Miri's wings twitched nervously, but she stood tall. Roran realized she was risking herself, not only because of the long trek across the dunes, but also because these deputies could arrest her if they misunderstood. She was alone, small and physically weaker than the others, yet she moved with courage. He had never felt such admiration before. When the deputies left to investigate further, Miri began to limp back toward the ranch. Roran followed quietly, making sure she was safe. She seemed tired but determined. The sun climbed higher, and the desert heat made the walk exhausting. Roran noticed how her steps faltered slightly, and he made a mental note to offer help when the moment was right. Back at the ranch, Miri set down her satchel carefully. She removed a few tools and some crystal samples, placing them on the work table. Roran approached cautiously. "You are hiding a lot, Miri," he said softly. Miri looked at him, her golden eyes tired but steady. It is important, Roran. The tunnels are damaging the land. The creatures who live there are in danger. If I do not act, many will suffer. Roran nodded. He understood. Humans often acted alone to protect what mattered to them. And now he realized aliens could do the same. You are very brave, he said. But you cannot do this alone. Let me help you. Miri hesitated. She had always worked in secret, and trust was not easy to give. But she saw the determination in Roran's eyes. All right, she said quietly. But you must follow my instructions. One mistake could ruin everything. Roran agreed. He felt a new sense of purpose. Protecting Miri was one thing, but now he had a chance to help the land, the animals, and the creatures who could not speak for themselves. That evening, Roran and Miri prepared a plan. They would explore the dunes carefully, mapping the tunnels and identifying signs of the damage. Roran would use his knowledge of the desert to create safe paths. Miri would use her alien senses to detect danger and read the signs of the tunnels. Together, they formed a team unlike any other, human intuition and alien perception working in harmony. As the night fell, the desert became quiet and still. Stars twinkled overhead, and the moons reflected softly on the sand. Roran and Miri sat outside looking at the horizon. You know, Roran said, I have lived here for years, but I have never seen the desert like this. It feels alive in a way I did not notice before. Miri smiled faintly. The desert has always been alive. Many do not see it. Humans often miss what is right in front of them. But you notice more than most. Roran felt a sense of pride mixed with humility. He had thought himself simple, a quiet rancher. But now he understood that bravery was not about fighting or loud gestures. It was about noticing what needed attention, about standing up for those who could not defend themselves. Over the next few days, Roran and Miri worked together. They examined the dunes, taking careful notes of the tunnels and the machinery used for illegal mining. The creatures of the desert watched them cautiously, but seemed to sense no threat. Roran marveled at Miri's skill. She could read signs in the sand, detect vibrations, and even sense faint energy signals from the equipment hidden in the tunnels. One morning, they discovered a small group of young desert creatures trapped near a tunnel entrance. The ground had collapsed and the animals could not escape. Miri acted quickly, using her strength and careful knowledge of the terrain to guide the creatures to safety. Roran followed, helping where he could. He felt a surge of pride as he watched Miri work. She was small but fearless. Her limp did not slow her at all. Afterward, they rested near a cluster of rocks. The suns were high and the sand was hot. Miri finally spoke, her voice quiet but steady. Roran, you do not understand. The mining is worse than I feared. If we do not act soon, the desert and its creatures will suffer greatly. Roran nodded. Then we will act. Together we can stop this. I may be human, and you may be alien, but courage does not depend on species. It depends on the heart. Miri looked at him, golden eyes wide. She had never heard such words before, not from a human. A spark of hope ignited in her. Together they could face the dangers ahead. As the sun set, Roran and Miri returned to the ranch. The journey had been exhausting, but they were determined. The desert had revealed its secrets, and now they held the key to protecting it. Roran felt something stir inside him, a sense of purpose that went beyond the quiet ranch. He was no longer just a human living on Xylara. He was a protector, a companion, and a force of courage in a vast and dangerous galaxy. Miri, too, felt a new strength. She had trusted a human with her secret, and he had proved himself worthy. She realized that humans could act in ways that were unpredictable, bold, and brilliant. In that moment, the bond between them grew stronger. As night fell, they sat outside the ranch looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, the alien deputies would continue their work. Somewhere beyond the dunes, the tunnels waited. But for now, they had each other, and they had the determination to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The desert was alive, and so were they. Together, they would uncover the full story behind the mining, protect the creatures of Xylara, and show that even a quiet human and a small alien maid could change the course of the planet.